Thank you to James Narengi for becoming a member of the Kinetic Rugby League channel, and thank you to every member that supports the work that I do for this channel. If you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. But let's get on with the video. Starting with 12th place, and still in 12th, I have Salford Red Devils. This was possibly one of the worst weeks that they've been through as a club, and that's certainly saying something. They met players for the first time on the coach going to the game, so there's absolutely no time to prep anything at all in attack or defence. But as always, Salford's effort was clear from the beginning. There were way too many missed tackles, of course, including some missed tackles that probably shouldn't have even happened in the first place, even with this lineup. But I did notice that when they had the ball, they weren't as easy to pin back as they have been in other weeks. They did manage to move the ball up the field a little bit better with some post-contact meters in there. And I'm just glad they were able to pick up a try at the end of the game and give the fans something to cheer about. Well done to all the fans that made the trip, by the way. And best of luck with the protest. I hope that really makes a change. That would be great if it does. But yeah, Salford Red Devils will stay in 12th. On to 11th, and still in 11th, I have Casper Tigers. I think their first 20 minutes looked pretty solid. They frustrated KR slightly, not giving them anything for free, and Cas were able to create some close opportunities themselves. But as we got further into the game, Cas seemed less capable of slowing down KR's carries through the middle or shutting down their attack. They did also get a yellow card fairly early in the game. Although they conceded points, it didn't seem like they just fell apart. They were still somewhat solid, and they kept working hard through the middle as well. A noticeable positive for them in this game was that they looked capable of making some post-contact meters on a lot of their carries. You know, we've seen them in previous weeks. They do get pinned back very easily. Once they hit the defensive line, they are stopped. But they did a good job on a fair few carries at pushing KR's defenders back, which we know how good they are at slowing down the ruck. So I think Cas did okay in a few carries here and there to not get pinned back inside their own territory. But in possession, just weren't really able to create many opportunities. Scored the one try, let in 36 points. And for me, Casper Tigers will stay in 11th. On to 10th place, and also staying where they are, I have Catalan Dragons. Their performance versus Huddersfield was pretty uninspiring and uneventful, to be honest. There isn't much I can pick out as a positive, really. According to the stats, they only had 4 play the balls in Huddersfield's 20, which is awful. I don't know if that's true, because all the stats on the Super League website don't always look that accurate. Someone's completion rate was 105%, so yeah, take that with a pinch of salt. They looked to move the ball around quickly. I did notice that. They did move the ball quickly, but it wasn't getting them anywhere. You know, when some teams spread the ball from one side to the other, you see depth in their shape, you see them moving with pace, and you feel like there's a possible break coming. Catalans did that a few times. You'd see the depth, you'd see the pace, but it resulted in basically barely anything. There's a few extra meters in there and nothing more. In defence, I suppose they were fine. They only conceded 18 points, which isn't too bad. That's fairly solid. They looked quite solid in defence for the most part, but their attack needs some serious improvement. But Catalan Dragons will stay in 10th. On to 9th place, and still in 9th, I have Warrington Wolves. Regulars will know how critical I can be of Warrington, but honestly, I was okay with that effort versus Wigan at the weekend. Starting with the negatives, there were a large handful of missed tackles, a few too many offloads allowed, some sloppy passes as well when moving the ball, and a few too many errors. And the forwards struggled to make some meaningful meters with their own carries on plenty of occasions, which are all habits and problems of this wire side in 2025. However, they weren't to a point where Warrington couldn't compete at all, and I think Warrington competed fairly well throughout the game. I was really pleased with the intent to go at Wigan's edges and try to stretch their defence with pace as well. I think the effort to keep going, especially down that left edge to Jake Thulis trying to get around Eckersley, there's a decent battle down that side, and I think Warrington's intent and their efforts in attack were pretty solid. Williams really got things going in attack, and I think Wire were able to make some decent meters and find breaks when moving the ball around this week. But ending any chance of a comeback with a knock-on at the end of the game was just kind of typical of Wire this season. So Warrington Wolves will stay in 9th. On to 8th place, and also staying in 8th place, I have Huddersfield Giants. There wasn't anything spectacular about their performance, but I think it was quite professional from start to finish. I'm not sure what their final completion rate was, but I do know they completed at 100% by half-time, which is fantastic stuff. I didn't know until half-time that Lola was actually out for the season, according to Ken Davey at least, so he's a huge loss. But Frawley steadied the ship with his kicking game in that matchup at the weekend. Rush at 6 kept things pretty simple. He wasn't flashy, but he didn't try to force things either, which is fine. That was mainly left to Flanagan, who's a major positive for the Giants, and for the future of Super League. He and Jacob Gagai especially, they had 6 tackle busts each in the game at the weekend. Even Gagai was huge for meters, making Catalans players miss as well. He helped to work the ball out the backfield and get the Giants set started higher up the field than they could have been nearly every single time. Huddersfield Giants professional overall against Catalans, and they will stay in 8th. On to 7th, and still in 7th, I have Hull FC. Of course, they won by 80 points to 6 against Salford, but looking at the squad availability, this kind of scoreline was expected. With their performance, though, they didn't do much wrong in the first half. Their intent was good, they executed well, which is what we were hoping to see from them. I think the only thing that lets them down from possibly moving up this week, which they could have done, but the only thing that lets them down is their second half, really. They scored 20 points less compared to the first. They did drop off in intent, and there was a drop off in energy, which I suppose can happen as you get more and more tired into a game. But there were a few penalties and a few errors in there as well. Just really sloppy errors that kind of turned the ball over, where they could have done a lot more damage. They could have beaten what Saints did in round 1, scoring 82 points. They could have broken the Super League highest scoring record as well. That was in reach. Hitting 100 plus was genuinely in reach for Hull. So I think it was a little bit of a disappointment that they didn't achieve a little bit more in that game, just given the disparity in squad availability, but they did exactly what was needed of them, or what was expected of them. So Hull FC will stay in 7th. On to 6th place, and moving down 1 this week, I have Wakefield Trinity. Looking back at the game against Saints, Wakey just didn't look themselves on a lot of occasions. If you look at the tries they conceded, they look startled, unfocused, and sometimes just uncomfortable on a few occasions leading to those tries. It just didn't look like the Wakefield that we've come to know when you look at those tries that they conceded. They also had 41 missed tackles and 13 errors, which is poor. The reason I still have them above Hull FC right now is a mix of quality of opponents, quality of recent performances as well. Wakey have still been the slightly stronger side for me, but the margin is very, very close, and anything could change these sides around in the next few weeks. But Wakey still at least moved down from their loss, but Wakefield Trinity will be in 6th. On to 5th place, and moving up 1 this week, I have Wigan Warriors. It wasn't a great or even massively clean performance from Wigan, but they had patches throughout the game where we would see typical Wigan, whether it be dragging defenders back with their carries, slowing down the ruck, making players miss tackles, or getting offloads. They did that enough throughout the game to get the win, and when they were on the back foot, they've got the quality, they've got the pace in their side to create a few moments of magic and keep finding tries when they needed them to retake the lead. They did have 33 missed tackles according to the Super League stats, which doesn't sound amazing. Also 10 errors as well overall, which isn't great, but they made up for it with their goal line defence on plenty of occasions and kicked well when they got to the end of their set. So Wigan Warriors will move up 1 into 5th. On to 4th place, and still in 4th, I have Leeds Rhinos. They played against Leigh at the weekend, and they did a great job working their way back into the game after going down by 8. They came back and took an 8-point lead. I thought Miller had a fantastic game. He had 184 metres, 12 tackle breaks, a try and an assist as well. McDonnell had 27 tackles, Watkins had 44, O'Connor had 51. They got through a lot of strong defensive work in the middle. I think they were lacking up front for a good 20 to 25 minutes, but when Lasoni came on, he changed the game in the middle, even scoring a try 6 minutes after coming on. Now, there isn't really anything to complain about with this performance, aside from the 14 errors they had, which did give Leigh good field position on a handful of occasions, but they completed at a high enough rate. They defended much better after conceding the first 2 tries, the first of which was a little bit too easy. Leeds could have moved up, but they stay where they are just because I don't feel I can move anyone else below them just yet. So Leeds Rhinos will stay in 4th. On to 3rd place, and moving down 2 this week, I have Leigh Leopards. They started the game against Leeds very well. They scored 2 tries in the opening 15 minutes and didn't look like giving too much away as well, but they did let some errors and ill discipline creep into the game, and they gifted Leeds easy territory at times. They also had 37 missed tackles as well, but beyond that, there wasn't too much to complain about, same as with Leeds. It's just that Leeds were able to take a few more of their chances this week. But both sides made it very competitive, which gave it a kind of playoff semi-final type feel. Leigh will move down because of the loss, and other teams do deserve to move up as well. They will stay above Leeds because of their other recent performances, which includes 4 wins in a row versus Wigan, Hull KR, Saints and Warrington. And their 2 losses in the last 6 weeks are actually both to Leeds. So there is a strong argument to move Leeds above them. If you guys have Leeds above them, no complaints from me. But these sides are about on par. Maybe the matchup just really suits the Leeds Rhinos in this one. But Leigh Leopards, for me, will move down 2 into 3rd. On to second place, and moving up one this week, I have St Helens. Now, their win over Wakefield feels like a bit of a statement, to be honest, because it not only massively highlights how strong their defence is, conceding just 4 points, that's 4 points against a fast and exciting attacking side in Wakefield, but then putting up 34 points against a resilient side like Wakefield is another sign of improvement. And By's kicking continues to keep things steady in the midfield, but inside the red zone, Saints are finding different ways to score. They can create breaks through the middle, they can open up the defensive edges slightly towards the outside of the sticks, or they can move the ball all the way out wide to the centres and wingers. Now, last week against Castleford was a good start, but backing it up this way offensively is a huge step forward for St Helens. Felt had a great game with 231 metres, 5 tackle busts and 2 tries. Walmsley had a try and 7 tackle busts, and Knowles with a try and assist, 38 tackles as well. Should Delaney have been given a red card? In my opinion, yes. It would have made the game closer, but I still think the pack that Saints have, and with how they're performing, I think they could still do enough damage, and their defence is actually good enough to manage it. I think they still would have been fine. So St Helens will move up 1 into second. Finally, in first place, and moving up 1 this week, I have Hull Kingston Rovers. I did mention for Cass that they frustrated KR for the first 20 minutes, but that was just in terms of finding points. KR didn't look that much different to how they normally do. And over 80 minutes, they had 1,000 more run meters, which is ridiculous. 300 more post-contact meters as well. They had 36 play the balls inside Castleford's 20, compared to just allowing 6 inside their own red zone. They didn't suffocate Cass like I maybe expected them to, but they kept them fairly well contained inside their own half throughout the game. Joe Burgess had another incredible game with 152 metres, 4 tackle busts, 1 assist and 3 tries. He's been flying recently. And everyone else really chipped in with the metres, tackle busts and tackles as well. Broadbent had 223 metres and 3 assists. So Hull Kingston Rovers move up 1 into first. The last thing I want to say before I wrap things up is that the gaps between a lot of teams are very minimal. Say between Warrington and Huddersfield, between Hull and Wakefield, between Leigh and Leeds. They are very, very close. The gap between the top 5 especially is very minimal. We could see a lot of movement over the next few weeks, so consistency will be key. But I legitimately, at this point, think everyone in that top 5 has a realistic chance of winning the grand final. It's not like 4th or 5th place is just a little bit too far away from the top 2. I think everyone in that top 5 has a realistic chance, given the squads that they've got, the capabilities that they've shown this season, either defensively or offensively or in both sides of the ball. I think this could be one hell of a playoff run. And we'll see if Hull FC, Wakefield or Warrington can take that 6th spot and maybe, put an upset in there in the first round or second round of playoffs. But there you have my Super League Round 21 power rankings. If you guys have your own list or would change anything about mine, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. But as always, if you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. And if you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.